There are plenty of references to other characters in the DCEU. You know, we'll talk about Aquaman, but we don't need to cut in with a Jason Momoa cameo.
That one didn't age quite so well.
These videos are not for children. If you're a children, then piss off.
Hey there, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso. And Peacemaker's first season has finally come to an end, which is pretty bittersweet. I mean, on one hand, it's nice to be at the ass end of things, so that this way we have a better view into the season as a whole. Wow, I really just used the word ass and whole in a sentence together, huh?
Think there's any connection?
No.
Anyway, as I was trying to say, it's nice to be at the end of the season, so this way we can examine the first season in its entirety. But man, oh man, am I gonna miss the ride. A wise man once said, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey getting there. And I think that that's absolutely the case with this show. Not that the destination was bad per se, it's just the journey getting there was really something else. What I find really interesting is that at the core of this mostly comedy show is a bunch of very complicated relationships. Peacemaker loves his father, despite knowing that he's kind of a piece of shit. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Despite knowing that he's a piece of shit. Leota is trying to make her mother proud, despite knowing that she has done some pretty immoral shit in her day. And also currently. Despite the fact that Peacemaker has killed many butterflies following his release, he's still on friendly terms with the queen of those alien insects. I mean, at the end of the first season, Peacemaker is still taking care of Goth. Following an attempted hostile takeover of Earth, Peacemaker is still keeping this thing as a pet. Even Peacemaker's relationship with his own father isn't as black and white as the show would once have you think. I don't know that everybody watching caught on to this, but in a really fucked up way, Peacemaker's father actually did love him. Hear me out. He admits that he would've, and in his own mind should have killed his own son, citing a list of various reasons as to why. From his sexuality, to his choice in music, to his lack of a hatred of those who are different than him. All valid enough reasons to murder your only living child. Once again, in his eyes. But he didn't. He had every opportunity to, and apparently also, in his own eyes, every reason to, but he didn't. He still raised him. And furthermore, he took care of his eagle while he was away in prison for 4 years. He even stayed silent about being framed for the things that his son was doing. The one time he finally went after his kid was when he was under the impression that his son was trying to kill him. So the fucked up thing here is, Augie actually really did love his son. At least as much as someone like him could love someone who is so different from him. Not that I'm trying to humanize this character or romanticize this relationship. Clearly, he's not winning Parent of the Year by any means. I think you could say that his parenting methods were very off the book. But in his own weird way, he actually did care about his son. And Peacemaker, despite being very well aware and less than thrilled about what kind of a person his father was, did in fact love him. Which is why he has a mental breakdown when he finally has to kill him, just as he killed his brother when he was younger, under his father's supervision. There are absolutely no one-dimensional relationships on this show. Characters don't just feel one way about each other, they feel 100 different ways about each other. I like these kind of in-depth character relationships, because to me, that feels real. There's a whole lot of depth in the final 2 episodes of the first season, but not one was done without purpose. There's a lot I wasn't expecting in these last 2 episodes. Like when watching them, I wasn't expecting my girlfriend to burst out into tears when the cartoon eagle nearly bit the big one. And I also wasn't expecting the big bird to pull through. Since the very first time I saw this CGI creature, all I could think about is, how long? How long until James Gunn inevitably kills it? I mean, I'm glad it wasn't today, but I was pretty sure it was gonna be. Unfortunately, Myrn did suffer that fate here, and seeing his little bug form crushed was crushing. Pun intended. I mean, look at that little hand reaching out. You know what? I don't even want to talk about it right now. I need a moment.
Please stand by.
The early lateness of Clemson sets Hardcore up as the new head on this proverbial Hydra. The torch is passed during this sweet little remake of E.T. And when Peacemaker kills his father, he's actually killing off a part of himself. He's killing off every shitty belief his father managed to brainwash into him. He's essentially killing off the character that we were introduced to in the Suicide Squad. And yet, that doesn't bring him the peace that he'd probably hoped it would. He's still constantly haunted by his father's taunts, still reminded of his father's disapproval. And even if Peacemaker knows that he's not real, it feels like he's still there. And much like the lasting effects of abuse and trauma, what's unseen to many has a strong presence that is felt within the individual going through this. Either that or his dad's Force Ghost. I don't know, one or the other. Another thing that I'm really fond of is the development of all of these characters. All throughout the season, each one of these characters has been growing and developing more and more, but none of them are at their final destination. Well, except for maybe Vigilante. Vigilante I don't really see progressing further than super-heroic sociopathic nutjob. And quite frankly, I don't think I want to see him progress past that. He's perfect the way that he is. Perfectly imperfect. There's still a whole lot of room for growth in every one of the characters in the main cast. They're still learning and they're still progressing toward the people that they one day ultimately will be. But none of them are quite there yet. Peacemaker is still suffering constant moral dilemmas. Even in the last moments of the finale, Peacemaker spends that time questioning if he even did the right thing. He still wonders if he's now doomed humanity by killing the butterfly's cow. These episodes are the host of reveals. Adebayo tells the team how she got her job and who her mother is. Goff explains to John Cena that the butterflies aren't looking for world domination, but instead are out to save the planet from itself. And then, of course, you have the biggest reveal, which is that Beard Dye does in fact dye his beard. One thing that I really wanted to comment on, this might sound minor, but it meant a lot to me. I really like the fact that the butterflies are none the wiser to who is a butterfly and who isn't. I like that they aren't somehow genetically programmed to recognize the difference between human and an inhabited human. Because a lot of the time with similar premises and like different species, tropey writing would dictate that they could somehow sense each other. Usually through smell. It's almost always through smell. But yeah, that's not the case here, so I just wanted to comment on that and compliment it. Thank you for that. Something I touched on a few times in these videos was how Peacemaker and Adebayo's upbringings carry some parallels. Not perfect ones, but they're similar enough. Both had parents who are morally ambiguous at best, and who expect them to be a little bit more cold than they're comfortable with being. While these similar dynamics are never expressed in conversations between the two, the show does end with both Peacemaker and Adebayo confronting their mommy and daddy issues separately. As previously mentioned, Peacemaker takes his own father's life, and Leota outs her mother for her scheming ways on national TV. In terms of the ending of the season, I think that it's left very vague, and that might be intentional. Instead of ending this season with a period, followed by a to be continued, the finale leaves behind a giant question mark in its place. There's no real cliffhangers, there's no real setup. What happened, happened, and who knows what's going to happen next. I genuinely have no idea where they're going from here, but I'll tell you what, I am interested in finding out. This is a James Gunn project that we're talking about. Anything can happen. The Justice League in the final episode was so perfectly unnecessary. Like, I never expected these characters to show up in this show. They didn't need to show up in the show. You could have gone the whole season without them being there, and I would not have complained. But the fact that they did show up and that they were severely underutilized, well, ironically enough, that's exactly how I'd like to see them utilized. The team showing up late for a job that was already well done, to the annoyance of our leads? Come on, that's some good shit right there. Who didn't want to see John Cena walk up to Jason Momoa and tell him to go fuck another fish? Now, I do have some complaints, but they're minor in comparison to the major positives the series has had to offer. But regardless, I do still think that they're pretty valid. The show's pacing was perfect right up until the last 2 episodes. And then at that point, it just felt like a rush to get through all the reveals and straight to the finale. Adebayo being Amanda Waller's daughter is revealed, but then it's mostly glossed over. I don't know, I just felt like it should have been a bigger deal than it eventually was. And maybe some kind of arc would have followed it, but no, it just happens, and now everybody knows, and that's it, really. Harcourt's sudden turn to the light side always felt a little bit forced to me. There are one or two smaller moments prior to these episodes where we get to see her begin to open up and accept her teammates, but it just feels like once they got their emotional foot in the door, that door just swung right open. She went from stoic to sucker, like, immediately. And we still know jack shit about Judo Master. You could have taken him out of this entire season, and who would have known? Who would have known? Maybe he's supposed to be part of the setup for season 2. But, give us something, man. I'm not going to complain too much about this one, if only because there will probably be some sort of payoff for his existence in season 2. A personal complaint I have, which isn't saying anything about the show in terms of quality, but I enjoyed a lot of these characters in the show's first season. And now those characters are no longer in the show, on account of them being dead. I just would have liked to see a little bit more of these actors. But the unpredictability of who lives and who dies really does help drive the show. When it comes to these characters, get attached, but, don't get that attached. James Gunn is very quickly becoming George R.R. Martin with dick jokes. Well, with more dick jokes. But I think my biggest complaint is that Peacemaker's villainous shithead father, the White Dragon, who, by the way, now that I look at him, kind of resembles an edgy Power Ranger villain. He could have been better utilized. The showdown between these two was so short-lived. I mean, I understood that he was a backseat villain of the season, but he really shouldn't have been. I think this whole arc was deserving of more time. And the first season could have worked as a really great setup for a season 2. You could have gone all Return of the Jedi with the second season. But no, he's taken out in their first ever encounter. And I know that their struggle will continue on in the next season, but as of now, it's going to be a mental fight of morals and parental problems. Could you imagine if the first season of Peacemaker ended with this shot? Like, this final scene, that was the setup for the second season? And listen, I hate to be the guy who runs creative ideas at a wall, but I think that would have been a much better ending. And it would have given the fan base something to talk about and get excited for, other than the revelation that Aquaman may fuck fish. All in all, I wouldn't say that the last 2 episodes of the season are bad by any means, but I do think that they're the weakest of the series thus far. They're still good, even really good, but the show's been better, and I hope that it continues to be better. Again, I'm not saying I don't like these episodes, I'm just saying that I like them a little bit less than all the others. It's a slight dip in quality for sure, but that happens and it's normal. It should by no means be taken as an indication that the future of the show will be lacking in any way, shape, or form. I certainly don't see that being the case. These weren't bad episodes, they were just not as good as the others. Peacemaker's first season is one of the most impressive and addictive first seasons of a show I have ever seen. And I think what makes Peacemaker work so well as a series is that it's goofy, and it's very aware of its goofiness. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but the characters in this goofy-ass universe do. The show works as a character study of the characters in the show, just with more fake fart. With all that being said, I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.